The hallway buzzed with the usual high school chaos, lockers slamming, voices echoing, and footsteps rushing between classes. Nova Taylor stood by her worn locker, fingers nervously tracing the edges of her broken shoes, the soles peeling away in several spots. Her clothes hung loosely on her slight frame, patched in places from hand-me-downs passed down by older cousins. She kept her gaze low, trying to disappear beneath the laughter and chatter that swirled around her like an unforgiving storm. From the other side of the corridor, Amber's sharp voice pierced the noise. "Hey, Nova, are those your shoes, or did you borrow them from a museum?" The crowd nearby erupted in laughter, eyes all turning toward Nova's frayed sneakers and the patched-up jacket she had worn for months. Amber strutted forward with a cruel smile, the leader of the popular group who ruled this social kingdom. Her glossy hair framed a face that twisted effortlessly into mockery, her eyes glinting with the thrill of putting someone else down. Nova's cheeks flamed with humiliation, but she clenched her fists, biting back the urge to respond. She remembered how Amber had mocked her only days before, questioning if she'd ever amount to anything beyond their small town's raw edges. That jab had stung more than the current taunts. Amber lived to remind Nova, and everyone else, where she supposedly belonged, nowhere near the world of fashion, success, or respect. But beneath the humiliation, something flickered in Nova's chest, a quiet, yet fierce determination. She swallowed hard, meeting Amber's gaze with a resolute glance. This wasn't the end. Not for her. Not now. The first step was taken, and though the crowd roared around her, Nova was already dreaming of the day she would return, not as the girl with the broken shoes, but as someone unstoppable. The days that followed stretched out like a relentless monsoon of laughter and whispered snickers aimed squarely at Nova Taylor. Each hallway encounter echoed with Amber's biting remarks, her clique amplifying every cruel joke until it felt like the walls themselves were mocking Nova. She had entered school dreaming of being seen, of carving a space for herself beyond the cheap clothes and makeshift shoes. Instead, she found herself the target of an unyielding storm, one that left her wondering if she truly belonged anywhere at all. In the crowded cafeteria, Amber's tone was sharp as she spoke loud enough for the table to hear. "Nova, maybe you should save your talents for fixing shoes instead of dreaming about fashion. Some of us actually have futures, you know." The table erupted into laughter, jars of spilled milk and half-eaten sandwiches momentarily forgotten. All around, classmates tossed quick glances, some sympathetic, many indifferent, as if Nova's humiliation was a mere sideshow to their own daily dramas. Nova sat quietly at the edge of the room, her tray tipped slightly, the cold pizza slice abandoned untouched as she held a scribbled sketchbook close to her chest. Her fingers traced a design she'd been working on for weeks, a dress inspired by the city lights she'd only ever seen in magazines. Designing was her refuge, her silent rebellion, and the only place where her dreams didn't feel fragile like her peeling shoes. Her friend Jason slid onto the bench beside her, lowering his voice. "Ignore them, Nova. They don't see what you do. One day, they'll regret underestimating you." His words were a salve, but even he couldn't fully shield her from the sting of exclusion. The day's final bell was a savior. Nova gathered her belongings, anticipation flickering to life once more as she thought about her after-school job at the boutique downtown. The cash she earned there would fund her fashion classes, and every shift was another brick in the path she was building towards something bigger. Despite Amber's incessant taunts, Nova's resolve only hardened. She knew Amber's cruelty masked her own fears of being challenged, of losing the effortless control she wielded like a crown in their high school kingdom. Amber couldn't grasp that Nova's dreams weren't fragile, like the broken shoes she mocked, but rooted deep in an unwavering vision. Even teachers, often too caught up in their own demands, rarely stepped in to curb the laughter or offer Nova respite. To many, Amber's reign was a familiar, harmless pattern. To Nova, it was an invisible fence confining her spirit. One afternoon, as Nova lingered after school, sketchbook open beneath the warm glow of a street lamp, Amber appeared at the boutique's display window. Her reflection merged with Nova's carefully arranged mannequins, a silent contrast of two futures vying for space. Amber smirked, voice dripping with condescension. You really think you can make it, Nova? This is their world, not yours. Nova looked up, determination hardening her gaze. Maybe. But the world changes. And so can I. The words hung between them, a fragile promise and a rising challenge. Around them, the world buzzed, caught up in its routine, blind to the quiet revolution stirring beneath the surface. That night, alone in her small room, Nova returned to her sketches with renewed purpose. Each line she drew was a step away from the girl they laughed at, a step toward a future where she chose the shoes, the clothes, and the audience. Her heart beat steady with the rhythm of a dream growing too powerful to ignore. One day, she vowed, she would control the runway, and this time, she would choose who walked it. Have you ever felt underestimated? Keep watching to see how Nova turns her pain into power. Nova's days became a carefully orchestrated dance of resilience and relentlessness. Mornings in the cramped apartment she shared with her mother, afternoons buried in fashion textbooks and design sketches, and evenings spent balancing two part-time jobs, a waitress at the local diner and an assistant at the boutique downtown. The weight of exhaustion pressed on her, yet beneath it all simmered a quiet fire, fueled by a belief that her worth was measured not by the tattered clothes she wore or the shade of cruel remarks tossed her way, but by the dreams she nurtured in the silent folds of each design. Despite the constant barrage of jeers, Nova refused to let Amber's words define her. But one event at graduation almost shattered her fragile armor. The school auditorium was packed, the air thick with a mixture of excitement and nervous anticipation. Caps and gowns rustled as students whispered about college plans and summer adventures. Nova sat quietly near the back, clutching her portfolio, the culmination of years of hard work and sacrifice. The moment was bittersweet. Her graduation was a gateway, but also a battleground where dignity and judgment clashed. When Amber's name was called, a smattering of applause echoed through the room. Then came Nova's turn. As she stood to receive her diploma, Amber's voice cut through the applause like a jagged knife. Hey, Nova, don't trip over your own feet up there. Wouldn't want everyone laughing again. The coldness in Amber's tone ignited a ripple of snickers, eyes darting toward Nova, measuring her response. Nova's cheeks flushed hot, the sting of humiliation sharp enough to bring tears to her eyes. But then, gathering every ounce of strength, she met Amber's gaze with a steady look, not of fear, but of quiet defiance. In that moment, those whispered jokes lost their venom, overshadowed by a flicker of something new, respect carved slowly from resilience. Later, walking home in the cool evening air, Nova's thoughts turned inward. She wondered what had driven Amber to such cruelty. Could it be fear? Jealousy? Perhaps Amber was afraid Nova's dreams might one day outshine her own carefully constructed empire of popularity and ease. This realization didn't soften the pain. If anything, it made Nova's determination grow sharper. Amid these turbulent emotions, an unexpected opportunity arrived. At the boutique, Nova encountered Mrs. Bennett, a kind woman with a keen eye for fashion and a genuine interest in nurturing talent. She had noticed Nova's passion and dedication and offered to connect her with a respected fashion investor eager to support emerging designers. The news rekindled hope, but also anxiety. This was her chance to step into a much larger world, one that could crumble beneath the weight of expectations and her own doubts. Could she rise above the whispers? Could she prove to Amber and everyone else that she was meant for this path? Jason, ever her steadfast ally, encouraged her with quiet confidence. You've got what it takes, Nova. Don't let the past hold you back. At night, Nova's hands flew over her sketches, the lines sharper, bolder, reflecting a vision of strength that transcended past mockery. The runway show she now aspired to fund and curate herself was no longer just a dream, it was a mission. She imagined the day she would personally select the models walking her designs, including those who had once doubted her. Would Amber be among them? The thought stirred conflicting emotions, anger, temptation, but ultimately, an unexpected glimmer of compassion. For the first time, Nova felt the complexity of their rivalry, that beneath Amber's harsh exterior lay fears and insecurities like her own. This nuanced understanding didn't excuse the cruelty but enriched Nova's resolve to rise not just through success, but through grace. Nova knew the path ahead was fraught with challenges. The runway was her proving ground, the ultimate test of her talent and character. Yet, as she prepared to step into this new stage of her life, one thing was certain: Amber's mocking voice would no longer hold power over her destiny. What do you think Nova will do next? Comment with your thoughts. The city skyline gleamed beneath the fading light of a late summer afternoon as Nova stood in the heart of the grand event hall, her breath hitching with a mixture of nerves and excitement. Months of tireless work had led to this night, the exclusive runway show that she not only had designed but was personally financing, a vivid symbol of her journey from scorned outsider to a force in the fashion world. The space was transformed into a sanctuary of lights and shimmering fabrics, the air thick with anticipation. Models fluttered about, preparing backstage, their silhouettes weaving tales of glamour and promise. Media representatives whispered excitedly, photographers adjusted lenses, and influential figures from the fashion industry filled seats, curious to see what the rising star had crafted. In the midst of the controlled chaos, a familiar figure appeared, Amber Taylor, stepping cautiously through the crowds, an unexpected guest invited by Nova herself. The surprise rippled through the room like a sudden gust of wind. Whispers spread: why would Nova invite the very person who had belittled her for years? What game was being played? Amber's polished demeanor masked a storm of conflicting emotions. She caught Nova's gaze across the room, trapped in a mixture of shock, resentment, and reluctant curiosity. That invitation wasn't an act of revenge or a trap, it was something far more complex, a challenge to the status quo, an olive branch extended in silent hope. Backstage, Nova found a quiet moment with Jason, who observed Amber's arrival with a raised eyebrow. "You really gave her a spot?" he asked softly. "Yes," Nova said, a calmness in her voice that surprised even herself. "She needs to see this from another perspective. Maybe it's the only way things change." Amber, meanwhile, wrestled with the decision gnawing at her conscience. Accepting would mean stepping into the spotlight not as queen, but as someone humbled, someone confronting her own vulnerabilities. Declining risked reinforcing the walls they both had built over years of rivalry and pain. As the show commenced, the runway lit up with Nova's visionary designs, elegant yet daring, vibrant yet timeless. The crowd was captivated, drawn into a universe reflecting resilience and hope. Models glided in flawless sequences, each piece telling stories of transformation and strength. When Amber's turn came, she stepped onto the runway hesitantly, the weight of the moment palpable. Eyes fixed on her as she moved, no longer the scornful bully of high school hallways but a woman facing an opportunity for redemption and growth. The applause that greeted her was tentative, uncertain, but genuine. Backstage afterward, Amber approached Nova, vulnerability flickering beneath her guarded expression. "Thank you," she said quietly. "For this. For seeing me differently." Nova's smile was warm, tinged with relief and hope. "We all deserve a chance to walk a new path." The night closed on whispered conversations, new understandings, and the promise of change, not just for Nova, but for everyone still caught in the shadows of their pasts. Did you expect Nova to invite Amber? Stay tuned to see how this unfolds. The grand event hall still shimmered with the residual glow of bright lights and fading music as the final model disappeared behind the curtain. Nova Taylor stood near the side of the runway, breathless, heart pounding with the culmination of years of sacrifice, hope, and silent endurance. Tonight, her world, once defined by broken shoes and whispered insults, had transformed under the gaze of hundreds of guests, critics, and socialites. This was more than a fashion show, it was a declaration. She had arrived. Amber Taylor's presence was impossible to ignore. Her earlier hesitation was replaced with an unexpected grace as she accepted the spotlight with measured poise. As the crowd watched, Amber's journey was no longer one of antagonistic superiority but a portrait of vulnerability and growth. The applause that filled the room carried more weight than the cheers of old. It was a recognition of change. Backstage, the tension that once defined their relationship seemed to dissolve into an unspoken truce. Amber approached Nova with eyes that carried the weight of humility and newfound respect. "You were incredible out there," Amber said, her voice quiet but sincere. "I never thought I'd see you like this. You're not just a designer, you're a force." Nova's heart softened at those words. For years, Amber's cruelty had cast long shadows over her confidence, but tonight this acknowledgement felt like the closure she hadn't realized she needed. "It means a lot," Nova replied. "But this isn't about me alone. It's about holding on to who you are, even when others doubt you." The consequences of the night rippled beyond the runway. News of the exclusive show spread rapidly, sparking conversations about resilience, creativity, and redemption. Those who had once sneered from the sidelines found themselves confronted with their own judgments. Regret and admiration mingled as they realized Nova's success was no accident but a product of undeniable grit and heart. Several classmates who had once laughed at Nova approached her afterward, tentative but sincere in their congratulations. The shift was palpable, a collective recognition that the girl they had spoken of with disdain was now a symbol of unwavering strength. Meanwhile, Amber found herself reflecting on more than just her role on the runway. It was a reckoning with the fear that had made her petty and the courage that Nova's example inspired. This was a beginning, not an end. In the days following, Nova took time to speak at community events and schools, sharing her experience and emphasizing the power of resilience and kindness. "Your hardships don't define you," she told audiences. "Your strength and choices do." Her story became an invitation to anyone feeling underestimated or sidelined, a testament to the idea that with courage, the path forward is ours to shape. If this story moved you, don't forget to subscribe for more emotional original stories. See you in our next story.